is the last day of Moritz sir with us. So we have arranged some small question round. So anyone if wants to ask any question, then they are feel free to ask. Let's start our session.
We can ask any question to Moritz. Legal question.
Myself Neha Bhatt. I am a executive. My hobby is traveling, and I am interested in know about different cultures. I would like to know that how did you feel in this country?
Very good. No, it's also my first time in India, so it was very interesting for me. And before we had like some questions, like some interview, which I didn't know about. I was a bit surprised. I was like, oh, no, you're asking me questions. It's everybody super friendly, very welcoming. The thing is, like, for me, like the first day is like not wearing shoes. But I really like it actually. But it's just like I never see that before. So it's like little things like this, and obviously I know that there are not, many people, like in India there are some places where people don't need me. But still I was like surprised to come here and like nobody eat meat. So even in the hotel yesterday I called like, so hey, this food like without meat? They said no, all without meat. So okay. So yeah, for me it's very good impression, very interesting, very welcoming, and in some ways similar to China where I live. It's like it is very big, very crowded, like it's very active. It's like you go to the street. I always say like you have to be a bit careful. If you're not careful, somebody will run you over. But I'm a little bit used to this kind of situation. So for me it was very exciting, and thank you to everybody for having me and being such kind hosts.
What about the driver?
I think this guy is like, I'm seeing sometimes this poor guy always waiting outside, and then he's coming up and saying, okay, when you guys finish?
Evening, Mr. Moritz. As we all know, Melchers is a good leading global company. Then, if you don't mind, I would like to know how Melchers maintain the relation with their employees.
That's a good question. It's interesting because like I think there's good sides and there's bad sides. The good sides is Melchers always have this kind of mindset to give people like opportunities, and also like if you have a good idea in the company and they just say okay, do it. There's not much red tape, or there's not much politics involved. Like your managers give you a lot of freedom in doing your work. Just show initiative. That is the good side. But then on the other side, sometimes this freedom also comes at a cost that you don't get a lot of help sometimes. I was cycling with my friends the other day. He works at a very big German logistic company, and he's saying like, now our company is to have like a young executive meeting in Thailand. So we all go to Thailand for like a 1 week seminar and meeting all the other like young professionals in the company and get some training. So this we don't do. And this is like, we have a lot of freedom, but at the same time, sometimes then you also have to figure out your own way. In general, like the company is very loyal to the people. Like, so for example, in Bremen, like in our German office, we have people there like they work over 30 years in this company. They just joined this company right out of school. And my team in China is the same. I have several people who are there for 20 years and more. And so usually like the employee base and the company stay a very long time. But then coming back to, sometimes not supporting people, so still very important that as a company you would still, sometimes help people to grow. And then the moment itself, like, okay, if you just for yourself decide to grow, you can do it. They give you all the opportunities, but it has to come from yourself. They will not encourage you to do something, like it has to come from you, and then they will give you opportunities, projects, other stuff that you want to have. So, but in general, it's good. I'm very comfortable at the company because I like this kind of freedom style. My manager trusts me. From the board of directors, they trust us, so they give us a lot of freedom. And for me personally, that is reward enough. But you can also see that other people are very comfortable because they're staying so many years in these companies. Even like we had a company outing the other day, and then there was a young girl which was working in HR, and actually the mother already worked in HR in our company, so now it's a kind of the second generation in the company, which is sometimes quite impressive for a company that's that old, and you have so many people there for such a long time. Answer the question?
So, my name is Rajvi and I am functional consultant. So, my question to you is, how come you are so strong functionally? I mean, as a functional, I would love to get tips from your side.
I need your tips. It's a good question. I was interested in computers quite early. And then in university, because I studied industrial engineering in university, we also had to learn programming. And then I actually specialized in like a little bit of IT in university. It was not solely IT, but it was in engineering. It was like logistic systems, like IT logistic systems, and there we also had like to learn a little bit about programming. And I think from this I just had a very good foundation. When I was like, 15, 16 years old, I was already playing around with Ubuntu. Nothing serious, but at that time, when you install your own computer and stuff, you learn a little bit about like the underlying structure and how computers think. And I think maybe this is not the secret, but this is maybe the reason. Like, if you know how a computer thinks, you can anticipate a lot of problems. The user thinks in a human way. They want to solve the problem in a human way, but you cannot work like this. For like, we had this issue in our instance that the analytic account is the same. We call it the same number, the analytic account, and the lot number in Odoo. And for our user was like, yeah, you can use that. It's so easy, right? It is matching. It's the same. I said, no, it's not the same. It looks the same. You write the same in there, but it's not the same. Because technically it's not the same. So I don't know. Maybe from this, because I have like a base understanding of computers, and then in the last 1.5 years, when we started to learn about Odoo, I also did not a lot of research, but I was just watching a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of online stuff, and talk to you guys. I mean, I probably learned the most by just talking to you and just asking silly questions. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Pranav. I work as backend and API in JavaScript part here, and I like to keep update about the global markets and all, which affects our market. I would like to know how Russia and Ukraine have affected your business.
What affected the
war?
The war in Ukraine.
Yeah. How did Germany?
What is Germany stand over here actually? That is our question.
Where?
What is Germany stand over here in this war as well?
For Germany, it's very clear. We are very pro-Ukraine. Germany is one of the biggest supporters for weapons to Ukraine. They're supporting a lot. For us, okay, first on the political level, for us is Germans and Eastern Europeans are very scared because part of Germany was Russia actually. Eastern Germany was part of Russia just until I was born. This is only 30 years ago. Part of Berlin and part of Eastern Germany was controlled by Russia. So there's there's some very emotional connection there. And when Putin is saying the fall of the UdSSR, in his opinion, was one of the biggest mistakes in Russian history, he implies that he wants to take it back. he implies that Russia should be as big as 30 years ago before the USSR was falling, and obviously that is very emotional for a lot of people, because also that includes Poland, that includes Czechoslovakia, that includes Germany, part of Germany. So that's why we feel very much on a political level affected by this. So that's the answer for the political question. But then obviously economically, we are still very dependent from Russia. So like on the German business, this is very hard. Like there are even like some, for example, steel factories in Germany, they have to shut down simply because the gas is too expensive. They cannot afford it anymore. Like they're losing money if they produce. There are like some stories of German bakeries, who make bread. They have to shut down their production because simply, if they use the gas, it's so expensive that they cannot, they cannot get the money back from the bread they're selling. So there's impact for sure on the German economy. Now the German government tried to fight this with a lot of money. I think they just issued $200 billion, no, 200 billion dollars, basically to support or substitute the gas price. So it definitely does impact Germany a lot. For example, we as Melchers, we have also one other sister company. They're doing sales in Russia, and they completely had to shut down everything. So basically, from one day to another, they do zero sales. So obviously that is very difficult. For us personally in our business unit, luckily actually it's not affecting us so much, because due to the shortage of gas, also the steel price increase, and we are mainly in the moment buying from China. So China has massive steel production. 50% of the worldwide steel is made in China, locally made in China. And the Chinese government is very strong in terms of export rules. So they don't want to export raw material, they only want to export products. So they actually on the local market, they can buy the steel at a very competitive price compared to the international market. So our products were relatively still quite competitive than to the, let's say, like other German competitors, because we could simply tap to the steel market in China. And a lot of our products are just made of steel. So at the moment, actually, it's still quite good for us. Actually, at some point, you could say it helped us, because it makes for German companies very difficult to hold up their supply chain. Like even before the crisis in Russia, they had this like worldwide raw material shortage. And we talked to some of our customers, and they need huge amount of like aluminium. And they could only buy like 2 days worth of consumption from the raw material supplier. So they only had like a 2-day stock in the warehouse. So because they wanted to order more, but they simply said, okay, it's not available in the market. So at that time, and even now, it's good because China, the way we buy our products, is still very stable when it comes to that, because they just do everything by themselves. So they're not so reliant on other people.
My name is Rachna. I would like to know your feedback on our Indian food. You have tried different dishes, right? So which one you like the most?
Yes, Rikan's wife is a very good cook. I'm positively surprised. I mean, I live in Shanghai, right? And we can have all the food there. I mean, this is like if you're into food, it's a food paradise. You can get everything there. But I never really considered eating Indian. It's just because I'm not so good at eating spicy, and I always like, connected with spicy food. But coming here, I didn't know that everything is vegetarian, but actually I like vegetarian. So the only thing I don't like eating vegetarian is that in many countries they don't make special meals for vegetarians, so you only can eat the salad or the side dishes, which is a bit boring. But coming here and you have like full dishes and everything is vegetarian, not too spicy. For me, what you're eating is spicy, but I can manage. So yeah, I really like the food, and I'll probably Also, when I go back, have like some Indian food when I come back to Shanghai.
Which one was a good one? He's asking me.
Which one was the?
Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4.
I like this kind of when we were at like your home, this kind of fried stuff.
Bhajia.
Signature
But banana is good. Banana.
Yeah, the fried banana and also this kind of fried potato with some spice inside. That was very nice.
I have a question. I am Bhavesh and I am POS developer. So I am directly not connected with Melchers. But every day, from maybe 2 years, every day I heard about Melchers and you. Personally, I would to know about you, about your study, about your life journey.
Okay. Good question. So I'm born in Germany. My father is actually Italian. So I'm half Italian, half German. But I'm always like to say I don't speak any Italian, but I actually have an Italian passport and a German passport. But I don't speak any. So I call myself like a fake Italian. Because my father comes from a region in north of Italy, which actually is a German-speaking area. So before the First World War, this area belonged to Austria. And then after the First World War, Austria lost the war and they had to give some land to, or was gifted to Italy. And then my grandmother's mother tongue and my father's mother tongue is actually German, but nowadays this land is on Italian soil. So I spent in my youth, actually also spent a lot of time in Italy visiting my grandmother. But I was growing up in Munich with my mother and my father. Then I moved around in Germany. I was very active as a kid. I loved doing sport. I mentioned to Riken I can ride horses. I had horses as a kid. I lived half a year in England to improve my English. I was training race horses. And then I started studying in Germany. I started studying industrial engineering. I don't know if you have this here as well. No? Have?
Yes. Private.
It's basically, it's very popular in Germany, this study. It's basically 50% business and 50% engineering. So this is kind of like perfect for project managers or people who has to understand some technical side and some business side. Or a lot of technical sales staff or sales managers, they study this, if they sell like technical products, they have to both understand a little bit of both. So I studied this, and then I started very early in my university working for a German company. In my third semester I started working like 2 days a week because I'm a student and poor and I need money, so I have to work. But I was really lucky because I stayed in that company then for almost 3 years, or like even longer, 5 years together, but like during my study I stayed there till the end. So I got a lot of work experience and I was quite lucky. I had very good bosses. I first was like 1 year in the engineering department, doing like small stuff, but actually learning. They give me like a product, like a child seat product. And Mr.Moritz is a competitive product. Take it apart and make a BOM, like and make a bomb. We want to know how it's made. We want to know what is all this. And from this, I learned like a lot about like engineering and production and different components. And and then I basically, when I was about to finish my university, I really wanted to go abroad again. So I talked to my manager at that time and said, okay, hey, I really want to write my bachelor thesis with you, but I want to go abroad, and I only will write it here if you can, help me do it somewhere. And luckily at that time we had this company had like 2 locations. I mean, in Germany, one in China and one in the US, in America. And the one in the US was in Detroit. And then at that time we had, you probably also know the ECO, right? Everyone should know a little bit about ECO, like ECO, engineering change orders. So at that time, our company did not had a good ECO system, and there was always like, we had products in America and we had products in Germany, and somebody did a change, and then they were complaining, oh, why you do this change? We also use this part, and so there was like a lot of issue in the process in the IT, and they said, okay, come on, you go there to America for like half a year, and you do the process, you do like an IT project for us there, and then and I did that. Then I lived half a year in Detroit, and was working there with the company, and where that was actually my first real IT project I did. I implemented like a software and did some small adjustments to it, to help the company process with organizing all the engineering changes. And then I come back to Germany. I finished my bachelor, I finished my university. I started in the same company as a project manager for product developments. We were making child seats. And then I was like, okay, I finished my university. I'm sitting here doing my job. And I kind of saw my whole life. I was like, okay, I get married, I have a girlfriend, I get married, I get kids, buy a house, raise my kids, retire and die. And I don't know, it seemed a really bit boring to me, it just seemed like really, really straight. And then I talked to my boss and said, okay, I want to go abroad. I don't know where, I don't care, just send me somewhere. But unfortunately at that time they didn't have a position open. And then I said, yeah, okay, but we need you here. But then, okay, time passed by, and then half a year later, there was a fair in Germany where all the general managers, everybody come there, we all go to the fair. And then like the general manager from China, he was like, you want to go to China? I said, yeah, I could imagine that. And then, we talked this evening a little bit. They asked me like, what's my interest? You really want to go there? What I could imagine. I said, yeah, I'm really open to everything. I just want to do something else, get some life experience. And then the next morning they said, okay, Moritz, 2 weeks, you go to China. And that's why I'm since 7 years in China, basically. This was my old company. This was the old company I worked for. And then 3-4 years ago, unfortunately, this business unit was shut down and sold to another company. And then this was 2018, mid of 2018. They shut it down. And then I was traveling like 3 months to China and just rent a car, and we're like driving, 3 months to China, doing like all this, visiting place, because I worked there, and then when you work, you don't have so much time. So I really wanted to see the country from the other side, the countryside, how the people live there. At that time, I already spoke some Chinese, so it helped me a lot. And then I was thinking, okay, do I want to stay in China, or do I want to go back to Germany? And then I don't know. I didn't feel I was not finished with China yet. It didn't feel right to go back that early, so then I applied for the job at Melchers company, and now I'm very comfortable there. And that's basically. Then in Melchers we started this new job in a new role, also purchasing. Before in my old company I did quality management, so your quality as well, right? I was a quality manager. No, we didn't have. We had SAP, but not for the quality module. Not that far implemented. I was basically doing the quality control, not the control, but the quality management with my quality team in China for like several factories. We go every day to the factory and talk to them. So Rick can also mention me coming here is like a bit not strange, but unexpected. But for me, this kind of working actually it feels very natural for me. Like this is also the way we would work with our suppliers. We would go there, we would look at the product. Doesn't matter if it's a software or a physical product. You talk about the product, you talk to the engineers, you talk to the quality, you try to solve it, you try to improve it, and then you do some workshops, you stay there 2 or 3 weeks, and then everything is done, and then you go to the next project. So for me, this feels very natural actually being here, having this kind of meetings. And yeah, then 3.5 years ago, I go to Melchers, and that's where I am now. And then 1.5 years, we decided to implement Odoo, and a complete new journey began, which I really enjoy. I have to say, like I really liked IT in university, but for some reason I never went into it. Like it just didn't happen for some reason. But then I started doing Odoo and doing all this kind of functional work. I mean, I never did any programming in Odoo, but I was really interested and I really enjoyed this whole journey of developing software. Maybe coming from like, products, maybe Lisa can relate a bit to that. When you create physical products, it's like sometimes they're better and sometimes they're worse. You always fight of keeping a good quality, but I have the feeling with software is different, right? You always add something on top. It's very rarely that software becomes bad. Yeah, you have bugs, but in the end you always add a feature. There's a new framework you can implement. You take that part, add it with this, and you create something bigger. So it's like, I think it's a very creative way of building stuff, whereas like in manufacturing you always run around, like you always basically run behind and trying to solve problems that other people made, or like problems that is there. I mean, the product is a product. In mass production, you just have to make sure that there are no mistakes. I feel it's a very different way of thinking in terms of growth and development and building stuff. Like working in quality is not a very creative job. It's just like, always make sure that, you need to check. I need to make sure that people follow the rules and procedure.
Don't trust him.
Yeah. Yes.
Then how you come to Odoo? Like there are many ERPs in the market. Then on which basis you select the Odoo?
Like 1.5 years ago, me and Philip, we were like quite sure that we need to do something different in terms of IT. Like 1.5 years ago, like we were working in SAP, but for example, the whole purchasing team did not have access to SAP. So what they did is, for example, they create a purchase order in SAP, and then they have an Excel file and they write down everything again. And then this Excel file is sent to the purchasing people, and the purchasing people sent to the supplier. So in reality, actually, our company had two purchase orders. One in the system, which nobody had access to, like maybe 2 or 3 people in the company, but the other 10 people, 15 people did not have access to it. So, and then like that was the first idea that we were, and in general, not happy with the ERP we were having at that time. And the other idea was, we were seeing a lot of other companies, they're creating like platforms, right? Like everybody, like all the big companies having a platform now, they're trying to somehow connect the customer and the supplier, have one base where you put everybody in that and everybody works together in some kind of way. You have like one data pool. You don't want to have a little bit of data here, a little bit of data there, a little bit of data there. And then we said, okay, we need to do something different. And then I just did a lot of research, like what kind of software is out there, especially at that time I was looking for open source, because I knew if you want to build something, it needs to be customizable. And then I was just, seeing Odoo, and then we did more and more research, and at some point we actually realized that, wow, that's something really useful. And we never heard of it before. I mean, I have to say, like, Odoo is maybe now it's better in the recent years, but like when we started, I think roughly 2 years ago, doing all this like ground research, like not many people heard of it. I have to say that. Also, our like IT department, which doesn't mean much, but like even like people in that field, they say, "Odoo, no, never heard of it." But yeah, we discovered it online, and then we Odoo has all these online test versions, and then especially the one thing that really gave us a lot of confidence was the dashboard of Odoo. That Odoo is one of the, let's say, few ERPs which out of the box has a dashboard to the customer, to the supplier, which in my understanding is something very new compared to a lot of other ERPs out there. And obviously the Odoo dashboard was very, it's very simple, but since Odoo is so customizable, we could see that. Honestly speaking, we didn't know if our choice was right. Could have well been that, we used the wrong software, but we just were lucky, I have to say, that, we saw it, that we said, okay, is something, and basically just being as naive as we are, we just think, okay, let's try. You know, what can we break? And luckily our management supported us. Obviously in the beginning, coming from a bigger company who has like installed SAP for many years, is very customized to our business. In terms of the group company, they were not too happy in the beginning, but in the end they are basically giving us a chance to do it.
Sir, I would like to know how Melchers is a big company, right? And you said Melchers maintain his employee relationship very good. So how Melchers tackle this corona crisis in China? So there is also.
Okay, maybe I can give you two perspectives. So from the company perspective, they're very careful. They're very telling the people, please stay home. Please don't do any business trips if needed. Always be careful. And sometimes nobody was allowed to travel except our CEO was signing off on the traveling in order to minimize the liability for the company and actually, yeah, because it's very difficult for people if they're stuck somewhere. At that time, the COVID itself, and even nowadays, COVID itself is not so much the problem, but if you travel, then you know you could stuck for months in some place. You know you cannot go back to your family. In terms of so in terms of money, we didn't have any big salary deductions. I think in the first year we reduced our working hours a little bit, but it was not big. We also had to work less. We could use that as a personal vacation time sometimes later. Other companies in China did actually cut the salaries quite a lot. We did. Luckily, our company did not. Neither in China nor in Germany. So that's from the company level. From my level as a manager, it is very difficult because I need my people to be at the suppliers. You know what I'm doing here, coming here, talking with you. I expect that for my employees to do with our suppliers in China. Go there, talk to them. You know, it's like talk to the engineer, solve the problem inside, not just send an email and think they're just, hey, yeah, they will do it. You know, you have to check it yourself. So this is difficult for me because sometimes the people say, yeah, I don't feel comfortable to travel, I don't want to go there, and then you know, I have to kind of manage this and say, okay, we have to balance the interests of the company, and you haven't traveled for like, there was one person that hasn't traveled for almost a year, and said, you know, at some point we really have to go back to some kind of normal life because this is not sustainable for us as a company. You know, we're having a China office because we want to be there on site. But if you're just in your office, then that is really lacking a little bit, you know, what we need. So we found a solution, but it's very difficult for companies to balance that for the employees.
Something about Melchers group of companies. How big is it basically?
How big? Melchers is a very interesting company. Even I've worked for this company for 4 years. Like every time I go back to the head office, I'm still learning new things about like new business units, new stuff they're doing. I think currently we have like 1,400 employees as a group, and we have 50 independent business units, so 50 legal entities who are doing their business. And we have, I think, 80 different business units. Some business units are still like under the parent company. And in terms of scope, it is really, yeah, it is sometimes incredible what they're doing and what they're not doing. Maybe some of you know Patek Philippe. This is a Swiss watch brand. Patek Philippe. It's kind of like the most exclusive watch brand in the world. I also didn't know it before I joined Melchers because it's way above my price range. Even the employee discount doesn't cut it. For example, for this brand, they're doing the complete sales in China. We have some people, they're dealing gems, all kind of gems, buying it from all over the world, selling it all over the world. We are selling German machinery in China, all over Asia actually, not only in China, all over Asia. You know, like some German machines are very special machines, production machines. You only sell maybe 2 or 3 per year in some countries. So for these companies, it's not really reasonable to have their own sales office there. So we would help them, or we would sell their machines in Asia, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Pakistan. We have an office. Yeah, some people, like there's like some lady sitting also on our desk in Shanghai office. Their business unit manager is sitting in Taiwan, and they're like buying all kind of building and raw materials for the African market. So in Africa, you know, there's like some construction companies, they need stuff from China, so they're helping these companies to buy stuff in China and sell them in Africa. So it's like really like a lot of cross connections there.
So we are developing only one child company of the Melchers right now?
Yes, only one. One little actually. One small one. The child still has to grow. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little company. It's actually, we are even part of, as mentioned, there are like 50 different companies. And we are part of one of these 50 companies, and even in this company we have, and again, 2 business units. So there's another one which is not yet on Udu, but still we are in the same legal entity. They're also importing metal products from China, and since recently from India. So that's where I also go later next week in Delhi. I will visit one of our new suppliers who is doing some kind of metal products.
Sir, we would like to know your thoughts about our culture.
You mean in the company or you mean the country?
The country. As I know, you have done some business trip with different countries.
What to say? I think it's. I mean, I think maybe I'm a little bit biased because the last few days I only spent here. I maybe I'm just getting because like you have a company culture as well, right? And you have, so the way I'm seeing it here is like very friendly, very welcoming, very down to earth, very honest people. That's my impression. I cannot say if this is all India. You know, I just go to the hotel to here, go to here, so there is not really much else I've seen in the last few days. So maybe I just limited to like my impression I got, and no, it's very friendly, very open, very very, very welcoming. The one thing I cannot get used to is people calling me sir. This is something for me, it feels very weird, like sir is like somebody, you know, it's weird, you know. I know it's a way of saying it's not meant that way, but I'm not a sir. I'm Moritz. No, but yeah.
Respect everyone.
Yeah, I know it's a sign of respect,
Yes.
right? But for me, it's like sir is like, you know, you're watching a movie and there's an English gentleman and they call him sir. You know? I'm not that person.
Anything else?
Do you want to ask yourself?
Good question. No, I think I asked already a lot of questions to Rika in the last few days. I really enjoyed that, learning a lot about your culture, and you know, just like I said, it's also new for me. And you know, I asked like, you know, about like the caste system, because that's something we learned in school. So I was always curious, and then you know how it actually is, and what it means for people, and. Yeah, like, decent. You just started working here 10 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So what is your impression?
How can I say my impression from myself? That everyone should say.
No, what is your impression? I mean, you also changed your job, right? You come from another industry, and it's a little bit not like me because you also did some programming before, but it's also a journey for you, right? I mean, you change your job, you do something else, and now we also work very close together. So I also would like your personal opinion of me and working together with us.
Working in the IT company is very good for me. Like I worked 5 years in the plant, and which is very struggling in the physical way, not for the mentally pressure. Like we have to work for the 12 hours and day and night duty. That will be difficult for me. Like my health was also disturbed due to day and night duty, and also when I'm thinking about my future after the 10 and 15 years, I have to work in day and night. So I'm not accept this. That's why I try to change my field. And this job position is suitable my old job position. Like I know about the plant, how the plant works, and all the functionality that IT company needs as a functional. So it's also helpful for the company and for the me.
This I agree. I think like having worked in a production company or like, you know, it gives you a lot of understanding of process, how people think, and also how workers think. You know, we or like the people who are using the system thinks. You know, we talk about this a little bit. The DAO. You can explain later what it means. We don't have to explain it to the camera. And I think this you also learn from the company, right? You have co-workers who have no idea about computers and they're using it, and their way of, you know, having the understanding of the process. You know, we ask anybody here, they're super familiar with Odoo, super familiar with the process. They know what is reasonable and what is not reasonable. The normal user, but you know the normal user from your old job. You know, it's like you need to teach somebody an SAP and they were clicking stupid buttons, and you know. I think it's a lot of valuable experience.
For what I'm struggling from the technical side, like I have to learn more and more every day. Then I am after the few years I am in the comfortable stage.
I feel it's also good. I mean, you all guys you seem very close. You seem to have a very good relationship with each other. That's how I can perceive it from the outside. So I guess there's also a very open culture of helping each other, I guess. Nobody can agree. And I feel this is important, right? Like if other people are willing to help you and you're willing to help them.
Yeah, always.
No other questions.
Fine.
Okay.
Next plan is dinner.
Yes. Let's dinner with us. All team.
Thank you. Looking forward.
Thank you.